The story today is Usborne Beginners, Ancient Greeks. An ancient land. Greece is a hot country in southern Europe. The ancient Greeks lived there about 3,000 years ago. Many Greek towns were near the sea. Boats carried people from place to place. Life in Greece. Some Greeks lived in busy towns or cities. Others lived far out in the countryside. This is how a small Greek town might have looked. Here you can see inside a house. Men and women had separate rooms. Temples and other important buildings stood on hills. Greek houses were made of wood and mud bricks. Rich people had slaves to do the housework for them. Clothes and fashion. The Greeks liked to wear simple, loose clothes that kept them cool. Women always wore long tunics called chitons. Men wore long or short tunics, often with a cloak. Rich women had earrings like these, made from gold. The ancient Greek statue shows a woman dressed in outdoor clothes. She is wearing a sun hat and a cloak to protect her from the sun. Many Greek men had beards. It was fashionable to keep them neatly trimmed. What people ate. Most Greek people ate lots of vegetables, fruits, and other fresh foods. This Greek clay model shows a woman stirring food in a big pot. She is probably making a fish or vegetable stew. Farmers grew crops that were used for making bread. Often, people kept a few goats and sheep for the milk. People who lived near the sea caught fresh fish to eat. There were plenty of olives to knock down from olive trees. Poor people just ate lumpy porridge made from flour and water. A trip to the market. The market was the busiest part of every ancient Greek town. At the market, there were lots of stalls selling fresh food. People stood and chatted with friends or had meetings. The Greeks paid for their shopping with silver coins like these. Slaves stood on a round platform waiting to be sold. Craftsmen sold all kinds of pots from their workshops. Feasts and fun. The Greeks loved to have big feasts. Usually these parties were just for men. As visitors arrived, slaves washed their hands and feet. Everyone ate plenty of meat, fish, cheese, and vegetables, then fruit and cakes. The guests stayed for hours drinking wine and talking. Men played a game where they threw wine at a target. If they missed, they had to have another drink and try again. Some feasts had music too. This painting of a Greek party shows a musician playing two flutes. Gods and goddesses. The Greeks believed in many gods and goddesses and told hundreds of stories about them. This is a statue of Artemis, the Greek goddess of hunting. She lived in the forest and hunted animals with arrows. Zeus was the king of the gods. He was married to Hera, a beautiful goddess. Zeus's brother Poseidon ruled the sea. He lived in an underwater palace. Athena was Zeus's daughter. She was the strict, wise goddess of war. Hades was king of the underworld, where all dead people were taken. If Zeus was angry with someone, he hurled lightning down at them. Talking to the gods. Gods and goddesses were very important to the Greeks. In temples, people prayed to statues of gods for help. They also brought presents to make the gods happy. There were festivals for gods with music, dancing, and sports. Priestesses gave people messages from the gods. This temple is in Athens, in Greece. People came here to worship Athene and Poseidon. The Greeks had a festival for Athene that lasted for 6 days. Heroes and monsters. There are many myths about brave Greek heroes and the terrible beasts they fought. The monster Medusa turned men to stone if they looked at her. A clever young man named Perseus set out to kill Medusa. He used his shield as a mirror, so he never looked at her. Perseus cut off the monster's head and came home a hero. This painting, formed from a pot, shows a hero called Heracles killing a terrifying monster. Heracles was half man and half god, which made him very strong. The Olympic Games. The Olympic Games began in Olympia in ancient Greece. They were made up of many sports. They still exist today. These runners are taking part in the modern Olympics. At the ancient Olympics, there were wrestling matches. Some athletes hurled a discus as far as they could. Another popular Olympic sport was the long jump. Men raced around a track in chariots pulled by horses. The modern Olympics are held all over the world. Only the best athletes take part. Greek plays. Many Greeks enjoyed going to see plays, which were shown outside. People sat in rows on stone seats. The actors had lots of space to perform. People watched plays here in ancient times. You can still see seats in part of the stage. Greek actors wore masks to show what their characters were like. This mask shows a funny old man. Some plays were tragedies. These had a sad ending. Other plays were comedies, which made people laugh. Only men were allowed to act in plays. Mighty warriors. Some Greek men trained to be soldiers. A few soldiers rode on horses, but many others marched on foot. This picture from a Greek pot shows foot soldiers fighting with long pointed spears. A Greek soldier wore metal plates to protect his body. Metal plates called greaves were strapped to his legs. A large helmet covered his head and neck. He carried a sharp spear and a flat metal shield. Soldiers had swords too. This is a modern copy of a Greek sword in its full order. Into battle. The Greeks had wars with other countries and sometimes with each other too. Most of the fighting was done on foot. Groups of soldiers charged at each other. Soldiers often attacked enemy cities. They broke down the walls and stormed in. There were many sea battles. Ships called triremes tried to ram each other. This modern ship had been built to look just like an ancient Greek trireme. People sit inside the ship and row with long oars. One part of Greece, called Sparta, was famous for its strong, fearless fighters. Great Greeks. Many clever people lived in ancient Greece. Hippocrates was a doctor who learned how bodies worked. Aristotle studied science and wrote many books. Sappho was a rich woman who wrote beautiful poems. Pericles was a wise leader who ruled the city of Athens. Alexander the Great was a brave soldier. This picture shows him riding into battle. Alexander always wanted to be a hero. When he grew up, he ruled all of Greece. Some Greeks were inventors, but many of their machines didn't work. Our glossary of Greek words: temple, chiton, priestess, shield, discus, chariot, terrene. And that is Usborne Beginner's Ancient Greek.